Okay, we're ready to print on the Artex and register. So I'm going to pull out my color here, and you want to lay down a nice thick kind of layer of ink. Typically you want about at least a half a cup of ink, but it's relative to the amount of ink that you're going to be printing through the stencil. Okay, a half a cup is plenty for this. I will flood the screen, and then I'm going to print this on a piece of newsprint to make sure it's printing well first. Anytime you're not sure it's going to print well, always print on newsprint or proof paper. Okay. That's good. So I'm going to flood the screen. I'll turn the vacuum on, and we're going to prepare to print now on the Artex. So now it's on the Artex. I want to always, again, make sure that I keep my stencil wet. Right? So I want to flood the screen with ink. And this time I want to do an extra flood stroke. I want to do a heavy stroke where I take all of that ink and I just kind of distribute it across the surface. Frosting the cake, as it were. All right? Just a nice heavy layer. I can get an additional kind of added bit of security if I add a little bit of water to the top of that too. That'll help keep it wet. Okay? So now I'm ready to register. So I can take my print and slide it underneath the Artex. I'll turn the vacuum on. Okay? If I don't have enough on the print to register my stencil to, I can also take the additional step of putting the stencil that I'm printing on the print with the registration pins and then line those up. Okay? I think with this, we'll see. I'll start with just the print. So I'll take the pins off, slide this under there, get that in, kind of sticking out, and then we're going to move this until it's exactly where I want it. Okay. You have to really look at all areas because you can get a part registering here and not registering there. Okay. That doesn't look bad. I'm going to go ahead and double check it against this because I'm not familiar with the stencil in the image. There we go. And now I'll put my pins on. This is much easier than trying to register it to just the screen, and it's more accurate too. It accounts for, if you have a screen that has a bit of stretch, it accounts for that stretch too. The screen looks pretty tight, and it's lining up really well with the stencil. Okay? So now we want to tape the paper down so it doesn't move, so we can set our registration pins. Okay. I'll kind of pull this up a little bit. Take that down there. Keep this down here. That seems pretty good. And this piece of Artex, when we're all done printing, we can just clean that ink right off and we'll use it again for the next color. Right? And all of this tape that I use to hold it down, I can use it to just secure my pins to the table. There's one additional concern that we've got, and that is the ink sitting here and potentially drying in the screen. So as soon as I've got this registered, we're going to double check that everything is printing well and that I don't have a bleed or some other issue with the stencil or the ink. You can see I'm securing those pins all the way around. This is my registration system. If these move, my image is going to be out of register. And with just one color on the print, I'll have no idea that it's out of register until I print the next color. So the idea here again is we don't want these to move at all, and we want this, the screen, clamped down enough that it's not going to move at all. Okay? So now we're ready to pull the color on the print. I'm going to put a piece of newsprint here. Again, we want to make sure that it's printing well. All right. I'll engage the vacuum. And you can do this again on any of the tables. You don't need a vacuum to do this. The vacuum is just kind of assisted. So I'll print. I'll take a precautionary kind of wipe under the screen just to make sure that I don't get a bleed or had a bleed there. And I'll mix in any of that water into the ink. And then flood it. Okay? I think it looks good. Now we'll print it. Again, always flooding the screen after I'm done printing to make sure that ink isn't drying out. And there it is. I'm ready to print my edition with that first color.